Have you ever sat down with your family to talk about what happens when you're no longer around? Maybe you've thought about who'll take care of your home, your savings, or that small business you built from scratch. In the UK or the US, many people assume their will is enough. Just write it down and everything goes smoothly to their kids. But here's a real-life scenario. Imagine a parent passes away suddenly, leaving behind a teenage child and a modest estate. Without clear instructions, the courts get involved. Lawyers charge fees. Siblings argue. The house can't be sold quickly. The money gets tied up for months or even years. This isn't just a story for the wealthy. It happens to ordinary families all the time. So what if there was a way to skip the legal delays, protect your assets, and make sure your loved ones are cared for exactly how you want without going through public court battles? That's where a trust comes in, not as some secret tool for billionaires, but as a practical, legally binding arrangement anyone can use to plan ahead. Think of it like setting up a smart financial account with rules baked in. You decide what goes into it, who manages it, and who benefits, and most importantly, when and how they receive support. Unlike a will, which only kicks in after death and often requires court approval, a trust can work both during your life and after, quietly guiding decisions without fanfare. Let's break this down clearly. At its core, a trust involves three key roles. First, there's the settlor, that's you, the person creating the trust. You choose which assets to include: cash, property, investments, maybe even intellectual property, or future royalties. Then there's the trustee, the individual or institution you appoint to manage those assets. This could be a trusted relative, a close friend, or a professional firm trained in fiduciary responsibility. Their job isn't to do whatever they want, it's to follow your written directions precisely. Finally, there are the beneficiaries, the people who benefit from the trust. That might be your children, a partner, a charity, or even multiple generations down the line. Now, picture Sarah, a single mother in Manchester with a stable job, a mortgage-free house, and a young daughter. She wants her daughter to inherit everything, but not all at once. She doesn't want her 8-year-old suddenly getting full control of a house and £200,000. What if she makes poor choices? What if she's pressured by others? Instead of leaving it directly in a will, Sarah sets up a trust. She transfers ownership of her house and savings into it while naming a trusted friend and a local trust corporation as co-trustees. Her daughter remains the sole beneficiary. The rules Sarah writes say, use the income from my investments to cover my daughter's education and living costs until she turns 25. At that point, transfer full control. If Sarah dies tomorrow, her daughter keeps living in the house. Bills get paid automatically, and nothing goes through probate. The whole process stays private and efficient. But not all trusts work the same way. One major distinction lies in flexibility. A revocable trust means you keep full control. You can change the terms, swap out trustees, add or remove assets, even cancel it entirely while you're alive and mentally capable. This kind of setup is ideal if you want peace of mind now, but still plan to adapt later. On the flip side, an irrevocable trust locks things in place. Once assets go in, they generally can't come back out unless under rare legal exceptions. Sounds strict, right? But this rigidity has advantages because the law sees those assets as no longer yours. They're shielded from future creditors, lawsuits, or even inheritance tax in certain cases. For example, if someone develops serious debt after inheriting, having the asset remain in trust rather than handed over outright means it can't be seized by lenders. Timing also shapes how a trust functions. A lifetime trust, sometimes called an inter vivos trust, is created while you're still alive. You can fund it gradually, monitor its performance, and even benefit from it yourself. Many people use this model to avoid probate altogether. Since the trust already owns the assets, there's no need for lengthy court validation after death. Contrast that with a testamentary trust, which only activates upon death and is usually spelled out within a will. Because it starts posthumously, it must go through probate first, slower, more expensive, and public. However, it gives precise control over delayed distributions, like funding a grandchild's university education decades later. So why consider one of these structures? Let's look beyond the hype. Yes, high net worth individuals sometimes use trusts for tax efficiency, but that's not the only reason, nor the most important one for average earners. One major benefit is probate avoidance. Probate in England and Wales can take over a year and cost thousands in legal and administrative fees. During that time, families may struggle to access funds for funeral costs or mortgage payments. Assets held in a properly structured trust bypass this system entirely, moving seamlessly to beneficiaries. Another advantage is targeted protection. Say someone in your family faces mental health challenges, addiction issues, or struggles with financial management. A trust allows ongoing oversight. Funds can be released in installments, used solely for rent or medical care, or withheld if misuse is suspected. There's also means-tested benefit preservation. In programs like Universal Credit or Medicaid, direct inheritance can disqualify recipients from essential aid. A special needs trust holds assets on their behalf without counting them toward eligibility limits, so they keep government support and have extra resources for quality of life improvements. Then there's asset shielding. Suppose you're a business owner concerned about liability. Placing key assets in an irrevocable trust removes them from your personal balance sheet, making them harder targets in litigation. Or consider divorce. Assets transferred into a trust well before marriage typically aren't considered marital property. But timing matters. If done during or after marriage, courts may view it as an attempt to hide wealth. Still, trusts aren't magic. They come with trade-offs. Setting one up isn't free. Legal drafting, trustee fees, often 1–2% of asset value annually, and accounting requirements add up. Simpler trusts can be self-managed using online platforms, but complex estates, especially those involving international holdings or blended families, require expert guidance. And crucially, with irrevocable trusts, you surrender control. Want to sell the family cabin 5 years after placing it in trust? Tough luck. The trustee must follow your original instructions, even if your circumstances change dramatically. There's also a common misconception that trusts are only for the ultra-rich. Not true. A teacher with a pension, a tradesperson with rental income, a retiree with a modest portfolio, all can benefit from thoughtful planning. It's less about how much you have and more about how clearly you define your intentions. Looking ahead, digital assets are reshaping the landscape. Today, people hold cryptocurrency, domain names, social media accounts, and NFTs, items rarely addressed in traditional wills. Modern trusts can include clauses specifying how these are managed, ensuring digital legacies don't vanish due to forgotten passwords or platform policies. In the end, a trust isn't about hiding money or avoiding responsibility. It's about clarity. About saying, I've thought this through. I want my daughter to finish school before touching the principal. I want my spouse to stay in our home, but not risk losing it to care home fees. I want my disabled brother supported without jeopardizing his health care. It's proactive stewardship using legal tools not to complicate life, but to simplify what comes next. If you're considering this path, start by asking questions. Can your current will handle complexity? Do you fear family conflict? Are your heirs ready for sudden wealth? Talking to a qualified solicitor or financial planner helps tailor a solution that fits your values and reality. Because planning isn't pessimistic, it's one of the most responsible things you can do for the people you love.